New Orleans Saints Kellen Moore assembles speedy wide receivers following Trey Palmer acquisition. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Trey Palmer was added to the Saints wide receiver room. He was claimed off waivers from the Bucks. Ross Jackson's the backdrop. We're going to react to it and talk a little bit about the wide receiver room. Here we go.
New Orleans Saints have a lot of speed on their wide receiver room, in particular, rather in their wide receiver room. And I think Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints coaching staff are pretty happy about it. I think that that's going to end up kind of creating exactly what it is that they're looking for. Now, I asked Kellen Moore a little bit about this on Thursday during his final kind of bonus week media availability. And he said that they kind of just went after the talent, right? They went out, Brandin Cooks was available, so they went and got him. Trey Palmer hit waivers, so they went and claimed him. And that was...
I was just about to talk about that. So it's pretty obvious what Kellen's doing and the way that he's kind of building this offensive roster. He's just assembling chess pieces. Like, that's exactly what's happening. If you look at them individually, it's like Devaughn Vele is just Devaughn Vele, right? You look at him, though, on the chessboard with the New Orleans Saints offense, with Kellen Moore, what he brings in a specific moment, different player, right? Trey Palmer by himself, he's a waiver wire acquisition. It is what it is. But you look at him in combination with everything else the Saints have at the wide receiver room, changes, okay? And you do kind of have to, and I'm giving Kellen some grace here because we haven't seen it, we haven't seen it on the field, but it looks like Kellen's strategy or his vision is, I'm not really worried about the flashy, big name, big player, the one guy. I'm not worried about, let me go get Odell Beckham or let me go get Devontae Adams just because they're a household name. He's more concerned with, give me all of these talented players, I will figure out what to do with them. Give me all of these guys, I'll be able to get the numbers out there. Whether it's rotating 5 guys or playing 3 or whatever it is, Kellen believes, and I believe, he'll be able to do it. And when you look at the Saints wide receiver room now, you can kind of see, like, okay, I see what's going on with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I see what's going on with Brandin Cooks. I see what's going on with Devaughn Vele. I see what's going on with Trey Palmer. I see what's happening here. And then you throw in Mason Tipton and, I see what's going on with Juwan Johnson. Okay, I see the vision here.
More so about that. Devaughn Vele is a guy that they really wanted, so they went and made the trade for him.
Yeah.
And then it was more about the player than it was about the player's speed. But I have to think that the player's speed had to do something about it because there aren't a lot of wide receiver rooms in the NFL that are built like the New Orleans Saints wide receiver room, which is small, right? They don't have the biggest players. They have willing block.
I think the Saints are doing what baseball teams did like 5 years ago with the bullpen. And they said, they're like 5 years ago in the bullpen, baseball teams basically said, I'm going to play to the matchup. I'm going to have 15 different guys in the bullpen. I'm just going to roll guys out there strictly on the matchup, strictly on the at-bat. I'm not worried about that's my 7th inning guy, that's my 8th inning guy, that's my closer. I'm just worried about getting the outs. And I feel like that's how it is with this wide receiver core, where I'm comfortable saying Chris Olave is the 1, Rashid Shaheed's the 2. Beyond that, I don't think it really matters. And I've talked a bit about positional definitions not mattering in the NFL. I think also depth chart doesn't matter at all in the NFL. Like if you're running back 2 versus 3, but 3's usage is specific, or you're wide receiver 4, but you're a red zone guy, like it doesn't matter that you're wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Once you get beyond running back 1, even wide receiver 1 doesn't matter. Because if you're wide receiver 1, what do you think that means? Oh, he's out wide. Oh, he's doing this specific thing. Well, not really. Like your wide receiver 1 used to equal your most targeted wide receiver, your best wide receiver. But now it really doesn't. Like Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp over the last couple of years are a good example of that, where just because Cooper Kupp may be on the outside or Puka, whoever, flip, given the situation, whoever's in the slot, he could easily be the wide receiver 1, even though he may be technically wide receiver 2 on the depth chart. So I like this innovation that Kellen's kind of doing here. I like this. We'll see how it plays out, but it is crazy how different the wide receiver room is this year from last year.
They have a big-bodied guy right now, of course, in Devaughn Vele. They add to their practice squad guys like Kevin Austin Jr. as well as Cedric Wilson, who are pretty good run blockers. Mason Tipton is a very willing run blocker, so on and so forth. But it's the speed that stands out.
Very willing run blocker is a very difficult sentence to say. Very willing run blocker.
So before we get to why I think this is what the coaching staff wanted, let's quantify the speed a little bit for you.
Hey, before we quantify the speed, why don't you quantify one of these shirts? Shirts, hats, all on the store, mug, the summer collection. It's all up there. We got merch. I just did a shipment today, okay? So get your stuff in before the season begins. Remember, $50 or more gets you free shipping. The shipping comes out of my pocket. I pay your shipping. I mean, hey, you know what I'm saying? So I'm eating, beans and rice, and that's pretty much about it. Saltine crackers, because I'm paying shipping left and right. So get in there. Shirts, hats. The hats are amazing. I'm telling you. I love the hats. I have one right here. I've worn it in like almost every video. It's so awesome. And the face of the franchise hats, the shirts are great, very comfortable. So get in there or be square.
The New Orleans Saints right now, at the time that I'm recording this, have 6 wide receivers on their active roster. I'm going to focus on them. So no Cedric Wilson Jr., no Kevin Austin Jr., those guys on the practice squad. We'll leave them aside. There are the incumbent guys that are at the top in Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Those are your 2 star guys. You have the other speedy guys on the roster in Brandin Cooks as well as Mason Tipton. And then the 2 new faces in Devaughn Vele, who was acquired via trade just before the 3rd preseason game against the Denver Broncos from the Denver Broncos. And then just recently picked up on waivers following roster cuts, former LSU wide receiver, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver, Trey Palmer. So let's look at the speed for each of these wide receivers, just for funsies. Chris Olave, 4.39, 40-yard dash at the combine. Brandin Cooks, Trey Palmer, as well as Mason Tipton, all whether at a pro day or at the combine, 4.33, 40-yard dashes. That's really fast. And then Devaughn Vele, acquired via trade at 6'4", 210 plus pounds, still ran a 4.47. Now the trick
is absolutely cooking.
The tricky part here is that Rashid Shaheed, we know, is incredibly fast. He never got to run a 40-yard dash because remember, as he was coming out of Weber State and coming into the NFL, he ended up going undrafted. And one of the big reasons why he probably went undrafted is because he never got to run that 40 time. But he did tell us in California that he ran a 10.7 100.
You know what's crazy about that? Like, to think about it now, but just go run the 40. Go run the 40, put it on Twitter. Like, if you run a 4.21 or a 4.23 or a 4.25 or whatever, trust me, it will make it to someone. Like, run it, have people there with the clock, have people, whatever. Put it on YouTube, put it on Twitter, put it on Instagram, put it on draft boards, send it to Todd McShay, like whatever. In today's day and age, like, it's weird. Like, and that kind of goes for everything. You don't need an invite to do anything anymore. You don't need, like, just do whatever you want to do on your own. If you want to bake, I mean, this is a total random sidebar. If you want to be a pastry chef, don't wait to get hired. Don't wait to go to a pastry school and then get hired in a bakery. Like, just bake and just give your food out for to your coworkers or whatever. Or like, in today's day and age, like, everything's so accessible. Just do what you want to do.
Meter dash. For those unaware, a meter is about 3.28 roughly.
A metric system.
Whereas a yard is 3 feet. And so with that being the case, you can get pretty close to Rashid Shaheed being somewhere roughly in the 4.28 to 4.32 range of his 40 when it comes to a 40-yard dash. And so with all of that in consideration, the New Orleans Saints wide receiver room rather is really, really, really fast. I said this during the squad show with Dylan, Lance, and John, where I talked about how fast this wide receiver room is. And I'm going to say this again in the exact same way that I said it then. I'm using the heaviest of air quotes when I say this specific word that I'm about to say. But Devaughn Vele is the heavy air quote, heavy air unquote, slowest receiver in the wide receiver room and still ran a 4.47. That's still a really fast guy. And
I mean, and this kind of answers, there wasn't a question, but this answers the question of why. Why are they acquiring these guys? Well, it's obvious because they want to be able to interchange them and have them do specific things. That's it. They are going to rotate these guys in and out. They are not going to rely on a 2003 style wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. They all do the same thing. They're going to rotate in and out nonstop. They're going to be bringing players in. You're going to see Trey Palmer one game. You're going to see Devaughn Vele the next game. It's going to depend on mismatches and opponents and schemes and game plans and game scripts. And I like that. I kind of like that idea. I like the idea of playing to the matchup, playing to the numbers, playing to the analytics. I just think it makes more sense to do that. I mean, we've even seen on the defensive side of the ball, we've seen where edge players can basically line up where they want. Before, it was like, okay, you only play this part of the, doesn't it make sense? Think about this. And this is another very simple way to do this, but it does make sense. But in 2005, you would have never done this. Let's say I'm just going to pick random players. Let's say you have Micah Parsons. Well, let's say you're playing against Trent Williams, best left tackle in the NFL. In 2005 or 2010 or 2020, the idea would have been, well, Micah Parsons is just going to go one-on-one with Trent Williams all game. But doesn't it make more sense to move Micah Parsons and say, well, we're not even going to worry about that. We're just going to move him to the other side of the defensive line and let the right tackle, because we know Trent Williams isn't going to move from left tackle to right tackle in the middle of the game. So doesn't it make more sense to move him around the chessboard to where even though he's out of position, technically, it's better? You know what I'm saying? Okay, if you have Tyreek Hill and you're playing against prime Jalen Ramsey, I mean, Jalen Ramsey would move, but just move Tyreek Hill into the slot or move him somewhere else and force the defense to counter. And I like that. And I think that's what Kellen Moore is envisioning for his offense moving forward.
And a really fast guy with good speed on top of that, kind of Marquez Valdez-Scantling like, you might say. And so
you know what the problem in MVS is? He can't really catch. Super fast, but he's not exactly the most sure-handed fella.
I think that this is intentional. I don't truly believe that this is something to where they were like, oh, well, we like Brandin Cooks, we like Trey Palmer, and those guys happen to be really fast. Oh, shucks, I didn't really think about it. You don't say. I don't think that that's true. I think the New Orleans Saints absolutely were targeting speed, and I think that
I explained this in a video a couple weeks ago. I'll say it again just in case you missed it, even though I'm sure you didn't. Brandin Cooks was not acquired to be the wide receiver 3. Brandin Cooks was acquired to be the stunt double for Rashid Shaheed and or Chris Olave if one of them goes down. Whenever people are like, well, Brandin Cooks is the same, he's just Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. Now we have 3 of the same player. It's like, yeah, you don't think Kellen Moore knows that? Yes, obviously. But that shows you when you're stuck in that mindset of wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and defined roles, it doesn't allow you to look outside the box to where, oh, I see now where Brandin Cooks, he's really going to be he'll be implemented to do the same things that Olave or Rashid does when they either aren't on the field or when they want 2 of them on the field or 3 of them on the field. But he's not just set it and forget it as your third guy on the field all the time. There's sometimes matchup dependent. You want Trey Palmer out there. There's sometimes Devaughn Vele is going to be out there instead of Brandin Cooks or whatever. It's all just, you're just building out the Swiss Army knife.
That makes sense. One of the things that Keith Williams, the New Orleans Saints wide receiver coach, will say all the time is that being a wide receiver in the NFL and the NFL game as a whole, particularly the passing game, is about separation. You know what can help you create separation? Being fast as all get out. You know what can help you create separation? Being able to decelerate and accelerate very quickly. You know what else helps you create acceleration? Helps you create separation. Just simply making it tough for somebody to keep pace with you.
Not to poo-poo the whole speed thing, but I do think it's generally overvalued as far as separation and stuff goes. There's so much that goes into it. Route running, agility, your cone drill, your hips, how you move your hips, how you move in and out of a route. Just because you're fast doesn't necessarily mean you're a good route runner. Just because you're fast doesn't necessarily mean you have a good cone drill. like all that goes into it. I mean, you look at someone like Cooper Kupp, you look at someone like Lad McConkey, you look at someone like Puka Nakua. They all kind of run different. I mean, they run different style of routes, I guess, but their separation isn't really isn't baked into their speed. You know, some guys it is, right? Like Tyreek Hill's it's his speed. It's baked into his speed. It is I'm faster than you, try and keep up. You know, and sometimes, yeah, speed does win, but speed and route running aren't exactly like one for one.
Those things benefit from what it is that all of these New Orleans Saints receivers have done very, very well.
There was during the draft, I was going down this rabbit hole of like, I think we talked about it on the show, but it was like underlying metrics that are better determinants of success than the like famous draft measurements. And one of them was the cone drill with wide receivers. And it was like the cone drill, if you have in this percentile of the cone drill, you have a better chance of being a successful pro than if you have like a 4.3 and under 40. And it's like that for every metric. There's like, I need to find that article, but it's interesting because if you think about it, like a 40-yard dash is cool, a 100-yard dash is cool, but that rarely ever happens. Like, when is a wide receiver ever just running 40 straight yards, like 40 yards in a straight line, untouched, not looking around, not doing anything? It's like they'd never do that, you know. But you think about a cone drill, you think about, it's like that's basically the route. That's basically what they do all game, every game.
Coming into the season, and that is being fast. That's it. Checkmate, if you will. It's all done when it comes to that. So here's how I think Kellen Moore has the ability to maximize this. 3 things come to mind. First of all, and this is one of the things that Trey Palmer told me on Thursday when I was in the locker room and I asked him what it was that stands out about watching Kellen Moore's offenses from before, because he had literally just gotten in like the Wednesday night, so he hasn't really gotten an opportunity to dive into the playbook just yet. But one of the things that stood out to him, or what came to mind first when I asked him what stood out to him about Kellen Moore's offenses in the past, is that he loves to air it out. So the deep ball is obviously a big part of this, right? We've already seen sort of the impact of that. We've seen Chris Olave, we've seen Rashid Shaheed, we've seen Mason Tipton all make these big plays downfield, whether it be in training camp, mini camp, preseason, whatever it might be. So the deep ball is absolutely a big part of the equation, as you would imagine, when it comes to speed. But beyond that is also the lateral ability that this New Orleans Saints offense under Kellen Moore will be able to take advantage of and will look to attack with. One of the things that I first highlighted about a Kellen Moore offense that was going to look a little bit different than what the Saints have done in the past is that Kellen Moore schemes up crossing patterns really, really well. And when you can run crossing patterns that are moving from one side of the field to the opposite side of the field, as opposed to just running up the field, moving across the field makes it really, really challenging on defenders because you're forcing them into what's called a trail technique, i.e., trailing behind the wide receiver that they're covering. So either you're doing one of two things. In man coverage, you're forcing trail technique, which gives the quarterback an opportunity to throw to a spot or at least get the ball out in front. We used our Space Invaders reference a few weeks ago, being able to get the ball out in front so that that wide receiver can get to it. But then the other piece is that they're running through zones. And so you're able to time things up a lot more quickly because of how quickly that wide receiver is moving, get the ball to that open area. The other thing that I think will certainly be able to be taken advantage of here by Kellen Moore with the speed of these wide receivers is catch and run opportunities, or rather are catch and run opportunities, and the ability to be able to create yards after catch. So it
also helps out your quarterback, right? Like crossing routes, easy to read, less time in the pocket, easier throw. You know, let your receiver do the work. Like that's better than Rattler having to bomb it out. You know, like this crossing route style that's popular now is way easier on quarterbacks, way easier on offenses, and it's one of those things. Like, okay, if defenses nowadays are going to give you the underneath, take the underneath, and if by taking the underneath you're doing these crossing routes and getting yak and on all that, even better.
Getting the ball to wide receivers in space, and then letting the really fast wide receivers go out there and be exactly what they are, which is really, really fast. And so I do think that the pursuit of speed, if you will, has been very intentional by the New Orleans Saints. And so far, very successful when it comes to the wide receiver room. Now let's see if the wide receiver room and its speed can be very successful when they get out on the field, as well as we are less than or just about a week away from some NFL Week 1 action, and I cannot wait. I am so happy. All right, coming up next, I want to...
Yeah, I mean, I think like if you look at Mickey and Kellen and even Brandon Staley and just how this entire offseason, how this roster has been assembled, you do have to really kind of give him credit. I think you have to give Kellen credit because Kellen he knows what he wants. We'll see the results, but he knows what he wants to do. He's got a plan. He's got a vision. He is not going into this with just the returning starters and saying, all right, well, let me see what I can do with Cedric Wilson and Kevin Austin Jr. All right, let me just see what I can do with Trevor Penning at right tackle. He has completely went full steam ahead with his plan. And Mickey Loomis, love him or hate him on this channel, we tend to agree with Mickey. He's kind of cooking. He cooked in the draft. He cooked with some of these trades. He cooked with some of the waiver wire stuff. Everything's looking pretty chill. Like hindsight's, 2020, but he absolutely cooked with the Marshawn Lattimore trade last year. Like things are pretty chill for the Saints right now. Things are looking good. So we'll see if the results happen. The results aren't always guaranteed, no matter how good a plan is. You know how that is in life, but whatever. It is what it is, and I think the Saints are doing a good job of, kind of maximizing what they have. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.